We have lost a man who can only be described as a true hero and champion of his people. Gutted, lost for words, shock was how every single one of us felt when at some point in time on Saturday morning or any time over the weekend we would have received the harrowing news of Anil's passing. After that initial phase of shock, we settled into grief that, according to the testaments of some who would have even messaged the station and reached out to the family, grief that some people confess they had not felt even at the passing of some of their own loved ones. Grief that some people confessed they had never experienced before, and that some also confessed they couldn't understand why they were experiencing this. How so? Because they never met the man. Some of us who were fortunate to have met him and to know him would understand why you felt the way that you felt. But think of those who never met Anil Bheem and have been crying intermittently from Saturday morning until present day. What sort of character and personality makes a man of that stature, of that magnitude? And I dare say in front of all of his musical fans and family that it was not his music. That was a part of it, but it was not all of it. Why are we mourning the loss of Anil Bheem? Why is a nation thrown into sorrow at the loss of one mere mortal man? Because Anil Bheem was more than that. Anil Bheem was not just a great singer, entertainer, vocalist. If you happen to know the man in many other or any other capacity, you would know Anil Bheem, as Cheryl does, as a husband. And how many women can truly, honestly confess, even before their husband's passing, that he was a great husband to me, that he was the best husband I could have asked for? That is the man that Cheryl mourns today. We do not just mourn the passing of an artist, we mourn the passing of a father who all throughout his careers, and no matter how high his career and his success soared, he always remembered that his true purpose, at least for those formative years, was to focus on his daughters, and later on, in fact to this present day in life, to focus not just on his daughters, but more so on the loves of his life, and not just Cheryl, but his grandchildren. Oh, to sit and hear Anil regale at stories of his two grandsons. Some of us have experienced those conversations. But we mourn a man who was known and celebrated for his humility. How many of you would have met Anil Bheem and in your head you had conjured images of this megastar because he is a megastar? But when you met the man, his feet were firmly planted on the ground. No hurries to take a photo with you, to hug you, to show you some love, to talk to you and your family as though you were his own. A man of simplicity. He didn't like fancy things, as Cheryl will attest to. A man of so many other stellar characteristics and traits. A man who in his capacity as a radio presenter didn't just play you music and share information with you. He didn't even just entertain you, but a man who kept for close to 30 years almost every single one of us here companion on an afternoon when you were stuck in relentless traffic. And so when you got home after the traffic, you still didn't take off the radio, because such was the charisma of this man to draw you into him. And to do that for 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 is no easy feat, much less to continue to command your attention for 30 years. That is the magnitude of the man that we are here to mourn today. Now, I am not submitting to you that Anil Bheem was not without flaw or fault. By no means whatsoever. He was, as we all are, mortals, and he would have followed along the way. But what was the difference with Anil? The difference was that whenever Anil would fall out with you, it was always born out of his passion for something that he felt strongly about. And maybe you were on the other end of that spectrum. It was never born out of malice, hatred, or ill will. In fact, quite the opposite to that. It was always born out of love. And so on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I say to you today that today we do not mourn a man who sang great songs, although that is a major part of it. A man whose music connected us to our own divinity, to the Lord, to our family members, and whose music we rejoiced with and we grieved with. But I submit to you today that today we are all gathered here today to mourn the loss of the divinity that was Anil Bheem. And whensoever any of us in his family or outside of that should miss this man dearly, just remember that all throughout his 30 years on radio, he has constantly told us where we can find him after he leaves this plane. Remember that there is a spark of divinity within each and every one of us. And if you would like to connect to the divinity that is Anil Bheem, locate that divine spark in your own self, and everything will fall into place. Everything will be just fine. Everything will be just mellow. As he would say, love your TNT and the world. Anil Bheem, out.
Please listen carefully.
The vocalist is here.
It's a blast from the past.
The Indian anthem is here.
Let the dancing begin.
नज़ारे अपनी मस्तियाँ लुटा लुटा के सो गई. सितारे अपनी रोशनी लुटा लुटा के सो गई. हर एक शम्मा चल चुकी, ना जाने तुम कब आओगे. सुहानी रात ढल चुकी, ना जाने तुम कब आओगे. सुहानी रात ढल चुकी, ना जाने तुम कब आओगे. तड़प रहे हैं हम यहाँ, तड़प रहे हैं हम यहाँ तुम्हारे इंतजार में, तुम्हारे इंतजार में. खिज़ा का रंग आ चला है मौसमे बहार में. खिज़ा का रंग आ चला है मौसमे बहार में, मौसमे बहार में. जहाँ की रुख बदल चुकी, ना जाने तुम कब आओगे. सुहानी रात ढल चुकी, ना जाने तुम कब आओगे. सुहानी रात ढल चुकी, ना जाने तुम कब आओगे.